Hey there, Adrienne Elise here. Welcome to the Gaia Daily for October 19th through 23rd, 2020. How are you doing? Well, we are at a magical moment in time. There's an interesting energy right now that is asking us astrologically, with the placement of the planets and the stars, to stop and pay attention. We are in a strange time where we can feel so much shifting happening, and yet with Mercury and Mars both retrograde, rather at a standstill. And yet this standstill has some magic to it. We've been focusing so much on how to get out of the Piscean Age, how to get out of the dungeon, how to get out of the Dark Ages, how to get out of the control and repression that happened of the Piscean Age. And we sometimes lose sense and connection to what started the whole thing. The Piscean Age was marked by, and I've seen again and again in past life pictures in my individual sessions of this period of time at the beginning of the Piscean Age, the birth of Christ consciousness on the planet, where souls had direct revelatory experiences of the light, of spirit, of truth. And that's what fueled the whole shift of energy at that time. And then, of course, the light had like a chokehold and held in repression and darkness, and using spiritual energy, spiritual principles, the energy of oneness, ruled by the Piscean Age, to control humanity, and to create fear and distortion of what's dark and what's light. So there's a message going on right here. It's like, oh, we've been clearing and healing and trying to get out of the trauma, trying to get out of the destructive relationships, trying to get out of our trauma body, our old stories, healing those past timelines, and perhaps have lost sight of the magical, mystical part of the Piscean Age, that we need to grab a hold of the gift of that in order to actually move into the future. And the astrology right now is a quintessential moment in time for us to receive back. It's like we have a soul memory. If you're a supernova soul, if you resonate with these messages, you have a connection. If you're here at this shift of ages, you were probably here at the last shift of ages, and you have a soul memory within you of this direct mystical experience. Now, everything that the lower matrix control energies are using right now, technologically and just the control lower matrix energy, is all about blocking our access to this organic light, this consciousness, this Christ consciousness, this the truth. So much more true and real than all of this garbage, distraction, pulling our attention away. And it's kind of like, take a minute right now in this strange and dynamic time to be open to this light, this soul memory of mystical revelation that may be available to you. Because what's happening is we're coming off of this Jupiter's third and final Jupiter sextile Neptune, this expansion of the opportunity of the light to come through the cage of the lower matrix. And maybe the light coming through that cage first starts sheds shadows and makes the cage look even more cagey and scary, and that's kind of where we've been at over this last period of time, last few years, on Earth, trying to just clear all this darkness, right? And not forgetting that the darkness is on the table because the light's coming in, right? And this understanding that we can't actually get out of the Piscean Age. Yes, we have to get out of the trauma stories and collapse those old timelines and heal those past life things that we've been all working so hard on. But we don't get to really move into the future until we take the gift of the Piscean Age as well, which is this direct spiritual revelation. Now, we've all had little glimpses of this energy in our life, probably what got you on this path. We can think back to those moments in time where it was like just the delusion falls away, the veil thin, and you're shown something so clearly. And it can happen in one little moment of time and yet change your life forever, change your whole soul direction, change your whole trajectory. And maybe that's this activation of the divine timeline energy that we're in. And we're being asked to use this standstill, strange place in between time, in between ages, with Mercury and Mars retrograde, to maybe like be open to this soul memory and letting this light come in. Because exact today and tomorrow, we've got some very powerful transits. We've got Mars in square to Jupiter, and Mars is retrograde, second square with Jupiter. And the Jupiter transits this year have been bringing in massive influxes of light. It's like Jupiter's like, hey, yeah, Capricorn, all these rules and laws and regulations and the old way and the old guard and the time and and it's like we're just kind of like struggling with up against the wall of the old, right? But Jupiter's like, crack. And all it takes is one little crack. And you're like, ooh. And this is a lot of what's going on for the world right now. We're on the verge of potentially just an avalanche of truth coming in around our true history, our true identity, our true, what the lies we've been told on multiple levels of who we are as humanity. And so this is a powerful moment to put aside all of the garbage of what we're being shown, all the distractions, look over here, and be present with, wait a minute, why? Why was there so much darkness in the Piscean Age? Why was there such a chokehold and a stranglehold on this light? And what was that like for those souls that maybe it's almost like the trauma stories were there to block out and blank out and distract from that mystical revelation that was coming in, this birth of Christ consciousness on the planet that can't go away. It can only get stronger. And as every soul, one by one, takes this light, remembers this light in their DNA codes, and starts to live from this place, perhaps from these momentary glimpses and memory of spiritual revelation, we're anchoring this energy here. And that's kind of the message. It's like, yeah, you've been through hell and back in the Piscean Age, but you were only here to be a placeholder of the light. And let go of all the old stories and come back into the joy and the experience of that. So this configuration, because we have Mars square Jupiter, and it's like the tension of Mars trying to move forward, trying to reconnect us back to true life force. That's definitely an energy of this mystical revelation. When you have a direct experience of God consciousness, you're hooked up to your life force. You're like, whoa, there is magic here, and that's like this self-correcting, powerful force that they don't want us to know about. It's all about disconnecting and how frustrating this crisis we're having in health right now. And everybody talking about all these dark details and nobody talking about the power of the immune system, because they want us completely disconnected. And this is like this is what Mars is fighting for. Mars is fighting for a different way to fight, for reconnecting back to the power of life force that we have inherently, we're born with, just by existing, reconnecting us to this, not just knowing it, but a direct experience of being consciousness, embodied and aware of itself. And so very powerful Mars square Jupiter, and that's exact for the next couple of days. And we also have Venus in trine to Jupiter exact today, and feeling it for the next few days. We also have Mercury exactly opposite of Uranus. So it's like there's just when you have this multiple layered dynamic energy, which is like, that's so crazy because Mars and Mercury retrograde and that standstill feeling, and yet such a dynamic energy behind underneath the surface here. Because Mercury in its second, and all this whole time it's been opposite Uranus, but now it's in its second exact opposite of Uranus in Scorpio, going retrograde in Scorpio in the darkness. And then Uranus and Taurus speaking to these new vibrational frequencies, trying to infuse our earth, but also our permission, our worthiness, Now, the dark stories that hid the light in the Piscean age, a lot of that, how that got to take hold in your field as an advanced soul, as a supernova soul, it was able to take hold through an insidious program around you failing in your mission, and the earth is just like, it's gone to shit. It's all your fault. And, like, give up, right? This is the vibrational lower matrix energies. The deal is like the playbook of what's being played out is an old playbook, right? It's like, wait a minute, I recognize this story. I recognize this riling up one side against the other side so that they're too busy fighting each other to receive the divine light coming in. And so we got to be like, hold on, wait a minute. I've seen this before, we've seen this is the Piscean age. It was just like a loop of trauma. Why? Just to traumatize us? Or was it just to distract us from this incredibly potent, powerful energy of mystical revelation that takes 1 second to change your whole reality? And so Mercury in its second and a retrograde opposition with Uranus is saying, can you let yourself feel worthy of these new energies? Because let's get on with it. Like, drop those old stories. That's coming up with Venus coming into a square with the nodes of the moon. That's highlighting that south node in Sagittarius, where we've gotten stuck in those old stories, disconnected from the whole magical reason why we ever bothered coming here, and just stuck in the trauma stories because we feel like we failed in our mission, except for that now the message is that you were only here to be a placeholder of the light, and you planted seeds, and now it's time to sprout them. And we cannot do that if we will not allow ourselves to receive back this revelatory, direct experience of divine consciousness and Christ consciousness light. It's just astrology says right here. It's just saying it's right here, right there behind the veil. And it's interesting how we've been so focused on the past and clearing and healing and clearing and healing. And like, now it's like, wait a minute, what's behind all of this? And what's behind all of this is that life force, divine timeline, self-correcting mechanism. And the way your role as the placeholder is to allow this light to come back in, the soul memory to be activated underneath the trauma stories, underneath all the garbage, all the, because what I'm also seeing is we've been talking about how these souls are, you're carrying your own feelings of failure, but you're also carrying, that persecution energy. You as a placeholder of the light was targeted with persecution energies in the Piscean age. And then you're carrying the karma and the emotional burden of your persecutors. So you've been beaten down, and then your people were targeted, and then you're feeling really bad about that, and really bad about your failure, and then really bad about you're so compassionate that you're carrying the pain of your oppressors. And this is a big shift that's going on. As these truths come to light, it's that great redemption, and where these souls that have been carrying the karma of blaming yourself and holding the vibration of this persecution energy and targeting energy of the light. And it's like, you may have experienced something. You may have felt like it was your fault because you were being targeted and your people were targeted and all that, but like you don't resonate at those dark arts. You don't resonate at, you can't even hurt a flea, And so you got to stop carrying the heavy vibration of your oppressors and give it back and come back to why you even bothered coming to this earth. And that's held in this soul memory of that magical moment right there at the beginning of the Piscean Age. And if we don't grab a hold of that, we can't actually move into the age of Aquarius. So just incredibly powerful, dynamic couple of days here where it's just like put all the distractions aside and open your heart to this remembering and this receiving and perhaps that momentary experience that completely changes your life. But for the supernova soul, this is a memory. It's already within you, but it's been hidden under all of the garbage of the trauma stories and all you're carrying for the collective and for your oppressors. And so that's that Mercury opposite Taurus, Uranus and Taurus. It's like, do you deserve it? And the message is like, how can you deserve it or not deserve it? You've already experienced it and it's who you are. You just forgot. So this mystical revelation energy is the gateway to that bigger self, your bigger spiritual self being able to land and incarnate here. And so just a very potent and powerful time. One of those moments where we want to connect on that other level, our connection with our soul group. Let that be true. Let that be real and work together in these pathways of light to have a direct experience. The thing that we're doing here is working with conceptual ideas, and then eventually they're shown as true. It's like, I know I'm up here just going like, well, talking through all this stuff, and a lot of supernova souls being like, yeah, I resonate, but my life still doesn't actually, huge discrepancy between this some part of you that remembers your bigger spiritual truth and purpose, and then the life you're living just so far away from that. And then you have to understand that a lot of this is because the modern targeting, lynching of these light worker souls is through being surrounded by people that it's like the agenda working through them. They're not conscious of it, but the agenda working through them, these are often like family members and intimate partners and, just people, everybody in your life, and that they're working out of a direct agenda to continually invalidate and disconnect you from your sense of purpose. Continually invalidate and disconnect you from who you really are, your intuitive knowing, your spiritual self, and we can't let this define us anymore. We got to find that strength of that Mars, and so Mercury is going to turn direct on the 3rd. We have 2 more weeks. Just over 2 more weeks of Mercury retrograde. And then Mars will be turning direct on the 13th, I believe. Is that right? Yes, on the 13th of November. And so it's like once this ball starts rolling, we really want to be able to run with this, claiming back our life force, claiming back our divine timeline, claiming back our soul memory of why in the heck we even bothered coming to this planet, and just run with these energies. We're just at this crucial moment of time, and to take a hold of these energies. So that's where we're at, and it takes that spiritual warrior part of us to be activated, like as that Mars starts to go direct, and say, okay, I am no longer need permission or validation from those around me. I have this here, And it's really in alignment with that divine timeline, with your access to your life force and that divine revelation. It's like it's all coming together. And that's that divine timeline for you. So let's stay connected. Let's stay together. Let's be open to the magic that's trying to come in that one moment that could be completely change your course. And this is, it's almost like there's evidence of this because we've been in such a strange time of inability to plan ahead, and a lot of that we could blame it on or like say, oh, that's because we're in this weird world situation right now. But it's not. It's a spiritual thing for these souls. Like, I can't get a handle of what I'm doing and where I'm going. And God, I thought I was so directed. I thought I really had my path ahead of me last year, and now it's like, what and how? That is evidence that this divine timeline beyond what you can imagine is trying to come into your life, and so that's definitely the energy of this time of like, run with that crack in the code, run with that one moment that can just rip your heart open to the truth of who you are and why you're here, and remember the magic of what we're doing here, and get on course with that and be ready for these big shifting energies ahead. And it's like, maybe that's like the more unknown energy you have of direction in your life, the more magical the moment can be for you. Because when we know exactly where we're going and what we're doing, we're eliminating the opportunities of that, synchronicity and that energy of the divine timeline to come in. And so being in that place of so unknown of who you are and where you're going, what you're doing, that's kind of what can open you up to this energy, and sit tight and be okay with that, and be in this standstill. We got 2 weeks of the standstill, and then it's like hitting the ground running. So let your system reset. Try to receive these energies. Open your heart to the light that's trying to come in, and put your attention there. Do not be distracted. Your work is not to play in the lower play right now. That's where all of those energies of trauma, drama, and failure and all that, it's like, that was never your job to accomplish something specific in this energies. It's to be that placeholder and exist in this wider truth of the bigger, wider truth of who we are, who you are, and what, what we're doing here. And the more that we put our attention on the drama, it's harder to hold that vibration of spiritual truth and revelation. So don't miss this moment. And let's help each other stay connected and be open to the magic of this light coming in. So I look forward to seeing you soon on the next update. Until then, I'm Adrienne Elise. Namaste.